So here's our little first lesson in Premiere Pro, a simple editing lesson, a little talking head documentary. And after I create this in Premiere, I will recreate it using a DaVinci Resolve to show you the similarities and differences with these NLE, nonlinear editing programs. Okay, so let's get started. We're in Premiere, it's been launched. This is the welcome screen. It shows me training, issues, all my latest projects I worked on. My new project, create a project, open an existing project. I want to create a new project. And I have my home button, which is, this is the home. This little PR up here in the corner that you see will take me to Premiere. Okay. And then I got a learn tab where they'll have loads of tutorials. Okay. So I'm going to create a new project. Okay. So this window that comes up in my new project window lets me tell me where I'm going to create my project. Where I'm going to save my project, excuse me, and give it a name. Let's just call this Dance Shots. That's where it is. And let's save it in a folder. I'm going to save it in the folder class 2. Let's just make sure there's not a Dance Shots already in there. And there is Dance Shots. There is one. Okay, so let's cancel that. And let's just call it Dance Shots Lesson. There we go. Give it a different name. Okay, because I want to show time code, my little new project window. I can set up things I want to do first. Time code, audio samples. My scratch disk is important. I like saving everything in the same project folder. Okay, I like keeping things saved at the same project folder. Some people may like to keep all their captured video in a certain spot on their computer or an external drive. Same with the captured audio, my video previews, my audio previews, and my auto saves. Okay, these video previews, audio previews much less, and take up a lot of space. Okay, they eat up, they're creating little video files each time you render a preview, and they can eat up space on your hard drive, and you don't really need them. As you're working along you do, but and when you render you need them. If you lose them, you can always render new ones. They're not that important, but what they do, they eat up a lot of space, so it's important to get rid of them when you're done. Okay, so this is one of the main things that you want to keep an eye on, is where all your video previews and renders go to. Okay, so I like keeping everything in one project. That way it's all together. If I move the project along, all the renders, auto saves, and everything goes with it. If I want to clean up some hard drive space, I can target old projects and delete my renders and things like that, and just keep the original file. Just keeping the original project file, which is usually under a megabyte in size, can really save a lot of space. And then just as long as I have all the original video files together, I can always put the project back together if need be. Okay, so same as project. Ingest settings. We don't really ingest video nowadays, that everything's shot on cards, so we end up just capturing it. My ingest settings is where everything's going to go when you import video, like capture video with your capture card. Okay, let's click OK. Let's zoom out, and there's Premiere Pro. Okay, this is Premiere Pro 2020, the latest version. We'll just talk about the work area. Okay, we have different tabs up here. You can see I have my effects control, my audio mixer, my metadata, and my secondary windows in here. Okay, this little button here is my home tab, which brings us back. If I click that, it takes us to the home screen, and if I click PR again, it takes us back to Premiere. Okay. I will go through the audio mixer. Metadata is very important. We have our various window workspaces up here. You can see which is very important in video, whether I'm assembling my clips, learning lessons. They have built-in lessons and project files that I can download. Color correction, working in effects, audio, working for graphics, my Creative Cloud libraries. I can access my libraries anywhere I'm at. This shows me all the panels. Meta logging, metadata. Meta logging is very important. We'll talk about that. The production and titles. Okay. We're just working in editing now. I mean, we're in assembly, but I'm just going to stay in my editing workspace. Okay. Let's bring some files in. There's two ways. There's drag and drop. I can just drag and drop right into the window. I can do file import under the file menu and file import Command I. Command I in most applications. So you can see this is my folder right here. It's called Dance Shots HD. Okay, and it's in the class 2 folder. I could take this and then it would bring the folder in called Dance Shots and everything would be in that folder. You know, I really don't care about that folder, so I'm not going to bring that folder in. I can also drag and drop from my Finder window. I'm in the import window, so I can't drag and drop from here. It won't work. Oh, it is working. No, it's not, because I'm in the import window, so I can't drag and drop from the import window. I can drag and drop from the Finder window, but I'll show you that again. So if I import now, it'll import the folder that I have selected, all the items in the folder, and this is, we'll talk about this in a second. And I will just, I'll just say okay, and okay to that too. And there it is, it's brought in a folder and all the items of the folder. Okay. I don't really want to do it that way because I really don't want this folder. But if I wanted that folder, I could. So Command I, let's just bring all the contents of the folder in. And I'm going to click import. And it's importing, and it stops at this one document because inside there, you can see I have more files. Let's go back. Let's stop that. Let's cancel that. Let's hit Command I and import. And you can see the files I have, let's just zoom in on that so we can all see. I have some MP4 files. I have a little MP4 file which was created in After Effects. I have just a backdrop which looks like a curtain. It's a Photoshop file. I have a Photoshop document called dances.psd which has 4 layers, and each layer has a different name of a Photoshop file of a swing dance. I'll show you that in a second. I have a couple MP4s. I got audio. Okay, this is jump down. It doesn't have an extension. That's my mistake. It should say jumpdown.aif. I think it's an AIF file. Is it not? I could just it is a AF. Yep, AIF file. Okay. Sorry for speeding around here, guys. Okay, and 3 MP4 files and another triangle MP4 file. This was created, another 3D design, a little graphic design. So I have enough files here to create my little, you know, it's a short little intro to, it's like a trailer for my project here, at my Dance Shots project. It's a talking head talking about swing dance, and I have people swing dance. Okay. And I have a Photoshop document. So I have some animation I'm going to do. I'm going to create a little title for it too. Before I import that, let's go to Photoshop. And I want to show you what this Photoshop is. Video editors, we have to learn Photoshop. I love Photoshop. I've been teaching Photoshop forever, for 100 years. I love Photoshop. Photoshop is your video editor's best friend. You know, a lot of things come from Photoshop. What you see here is I have a Photoshop file. It's the same resolution as my document. I'll take you through a lesson through Photoshop, but we have, like in the new figure, you have film and video. And I can actually, this is what I got here, 1080p file size, HD 1080p, 72 dots per inch, okay? Video format, okay? And square pixels. We have different kinds of pixels, square pixels, oblong pixels, and we'll talk about that later. Okay? So that's what I did. I started with a Photoshop file that was from the film and video, and it was HD 1920 by 1080. That's the size of my video. And you see the layer has 4 layers. This is my layers palette. I will give you a lesson in Photoshop. We'll learn everything about Photoshop. And each layer has a different name. The Lindy Hop, the Carolina Shag, Boogie Woogie, and Jitterbug. All right. Okay, I just wanted to tell you what we're importing because you'll see what will happen when I import this. Okay. All right, so let's go back to Premiere and let's continue import. Let's just select everything and import. So I got 2 Photoshop documents. One is just a background, it's a curtain, and the other one is the Photoshop document we just looked at, which was 4 layers. Okay, so I'm going to import everything, and it stops at a question. It imported a file. Okay, so this is the file. It's called curtain, and it's just a curtain. It's 1 layer. So I'm going to merge all layers together, make it a flattened Photoshop document. Okay, this will erase any transparency I have, but I don't have any transparency, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, so I click OK. The next dialog box that pops up, it's interacting with the multiple layer Photoshop file we just looked at, which had the 4. You can see the 4 layers right here. Let's just zoom in on that. You can see the 4 layers of the Photoshop document. You can even see a visual representation of that. I can do my dimensions. Of course, it's taken the whole document size. It's not letting me actually change my dimensions, but that's okay. But what I want to do, I don't want to merge all layers. I don't want to merge specifically. I don't want to bring in each layer by itself. I can do that, but I'm going to create this as its own sequence. Okay, so it's going to come in. All the 4 layers are going to be imported separately. It's going to be dropped in a sequence where I can edit it in that sequence. Okay, and the sequence is like a separate timeline. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about now, you will in a couple minutes when we actually do that. Okay, so I'm importing my 4-layer Photoshop document as a sequence because I want to keep it. I want to keep all the layers separate. Okay, and document size, layer size. I'm going to go document size because I already set it up as HD. Okay, and they'll all be the same. I mean, if I do document size, some are smaller, they're different sizes, and it may make things a little bit different. I'll just go document size because I've already set it up as an HD file. Okay. All right. So I'll just click OK, and then everything will come in now. And you can see over here in my project pane. Okay, my project. So what I have in here, I have all the files. They're in thumbnail view. So this little window here has multiple windows. It's my media browser, my libraries, my info palette, my effects tab, and the list. This little chevron here shows me the list in case I can't see everything. Okay, because I can't see markers or history. Okay. I can search here. Search by window and names and all that. I can view differently. You can see right now we're under icon view. Okay, this is the size of my icons. I can make them bigger or smaller. In icon view, I can scrub the window to see the video. Right, you can see some video has this little waveform down here. That means there's audio applied to that. There's really no audio applied to this. This is just an error I made when I exported this file. I should have deselected export audio when I exported this file because it created an audio track even though there was no audio. Okay. These windows here, these are just B-roll and there's no audio, and you can see there's no little, and when I exported these properly without the audio feature. Okay, so there's no little audio in there. I have a blue screen work here. I'll show you how we'll remove the blue screen. I got some Photoshop files, and here's one. I got a talking head. This is my guy, and it has audio. Here's some music and some 3D files. You can see this flip over like that, and this one just swings. It's like a swing dance today. Okay, and then I brought in that Photoshop document as a sequence. It came in its own layers, its own folder. The folder's name the same as the Photoshop document, dances. And when I open that up, you can see each individual layer. Again, it came just video. You can see this just has video here. There's no audio. Okay. And this is the sequence that has all 4 layers. Okay. And if I double click the sequence, you'll see there it is. Opens up in my timeline and all 4 separate layers there. Okay. We're not going to work on that yet for a while. Let's just go back and let's talk about some different views. So icon view, we've got freeform view. Freeform view let's just double click that, and it takes it full screen. You double click the title of your panel and it goes full screen. And what this lets me do is kind of lay out my files, like my freeforming, and I can kind of lay out my editing, you know, here, and I can, you know, how my tracks want to work and all that kind of stuff. See that? Freeform window. The next one, the freeform, is list. Okay, list, icon, and freeform. I like icon view. List view helps you, shows you a lot of information. You can see all the information here, all the little tabs. Okay, I can actually add new tabs if I want. I can move tabs around. What I like, and as a video editor, what you'll have to do, and we don't have much video in this project, but a couple other projects, we have, you know, a lot of video that we have to look at. And as a video editor, you have to look at everything. You got to know what you have before you can edit, right? So you have to look at every piece of film. That's one of the most time-consuming things about video editing. But you have to do it. You have to look at everything you have so you know what you got so you can edit it properly. What I do when I'm viewing all my work is I bring over, you know, different columns. Okay, we have like a description column. I can bring this over, makes it closer to me, so when I'm working I can add a description. Okay, we've got the label column too, and so I can also change the label. Okay, I can set up my own coloring, set this so all the good ones are colored violet, all the bad ones are green, or certain things like that. Of course, it's always organized regarding whatever column you pick on. So if you want to find the, you know, the largest duration, the shortest duration, you can go here. Again, we have ascending, descending, that little triangle there. You can see the little triangle there. In any column I select, my list is sorted by that column. Okay. We have lots of information here in my info tab. Again, we've got a little good checkbox too, so you can actually put that there, and you can check the good shots, the bad shots. You give a little description of what the shot is. A lot of times, these files here I named. A lot of times, it comes from the camera, and it has a long camera name, a bunch of numbers. Okay. You can change the name of the clips to help you organize them. Changing the name of the clip here in Premiere Pro by just double clicking it and over here and changing the name, or right click and go to rename. Right there's rename. And you can rename it, but the name that the camera gave it is still there. And then if you go to the info palette, you'll see that. These files don't have that information. You'll see when we get more stuff where you bring stuff in from school or you shoot yourself. I mean, bringing stuff in from home that you shoot yourself. You'll see the camera information on there, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay. But I really like my description. You know, because every clip you have to sit there, you have to click on it. It loads into the viewer window, and you hit the space bar and you watch it. And you have to watch it all. There may be something there that you want. There may be something very important. And you click, is it a good shot? You know, is it bad? You can color code it with your labels. You can see I give everything the same color. I can change the Caribbean, you know, so I can color code it. I can check it here, and I can give a little description too, you know, what the shot is. So when I come back to do my editing, I know where everything is. Okay. I can even sort all the good shots. So all the good shots are the ones that I take are at the top. Okay. Let's go back to this view. Let's double click on the name to take it up to the full window. Because I want to talk about over here in this corner here. Let's just zoom in on here. Okay. So what this button does is if I select all, say I have a whole bunch of clips, it will just automate it to the sequence. So if I'm in the arrange mode, I can arrange all my clips the way I think they should be, and then I could just click this button and it'll drop them all on the sequence in the order that I have them set up in my bin. Okay. I got a little search window. I have bins. This bin is a folder. It's called a bin because that's where film was stored. It was stored in a bin, those big circular bins. And that's why instead of calling it a folder in this program, it's called a bin. Most video programs call them as bins. This is my new feature. It gives me all kinds of new things. A new sequence, a new shortcut, a new offline file, a new adjustment layer, new captions, a count leader, bars and tone, black video. All right. So as we've taught, we'll learn this black video. If you want black, you have to put black video in there. Okay. By default, when you look at black, you're not looking at black, you're looking at transparency. And what happens when you shoot video and people play it on their player and it hits transparency? What it does, it shows the background color of your video player. And most people default background color as your video player is black. But it could not. It could be something else. It could be transparency. It could be any color in the rainbow. So if you want black, you got to put black there. Okay, and we have black video in there. A lot of times before black video, I would just make a black document inside of Photoshop and just drop it wherever I want it. Okay, our bars and tones, we've seen these in movies. I'll show you. You know what the bars and tones. They show you the different RGB color settings. You can color collect your TV and the tone, the audio signal. And we have HD bars and tones. A color matte if I want to bring up there. And here we got transparent video. Okay, so if I want transparent video, I can drop it in there. And this is just a placeholder a lot of times. You know, if you want, or you know, there may be a reason why you want transparent video. You may be superimposing this video over top of something else and you want transparency show through. But there it is there. And we have a trash can. Let's just click that, trash can. Okay, you can see we have one bin already, and this bin was created by Premiere because I brought in my Photoshop document in layers as a sequence. So it created a bin for it called dances. This is the other Photoshop file that I just brought in flat, which is a curtain, and it's just there by itself. So we can make some bins to help organize. I'm going to click here and make a new bin, and we'll call this B-roll. And B-roll are all my dances. So I got bloomies, and I'm holding down the command key as I select them. I can select multiple items. Holding down the shift key would select consecutive items. See, I wanted to skip my composited text, and that's why I'm just holding down the command key. The shift key, if I click here, hold down the shift key, and click there, it selects everything in between. And if I hold down the command key, I can deselect one of the items. Okay. Selecting and deselecting. You got to be good at it. You do it all the time. Practice makes perfect. So all these shots are my B-roll. And I want to drop them in my B-roll bin. Okay. The next thing I want to do, I'm going to create another bin, and I have my intro animation. And that is dances, curtain, blue screen, and triangle. Oh, and composited text N. Okay. So I got that selected. Hold down the shift key and select all 4 of those. And then drop those in my animation. Okay, then we got Rob and we got some music. This is the only audio file I have. If I had multiple audio files, I would make an audio folder. Okay. I'd make a bin for my audio. Okay, I only have 1 audio file, so it's not that important. You know, I could have, my audio is attached to my video. Okay. That's not always the case. And a lot of times we'll have documentary audio, we have sound effects, and we have music. Okay, so then I'd have 3 or 4 different audio files, and you can see. And as we go along and do a little bit more advanced things, you can see that'd be a good reason to make a bin. Okay, so I'm just going to double click the title to drop that back down to where I wanted it, and there we go. And what we're looking at over here is I have one of my files, one of my B rolls is selected. Okay, and any one I select, I put up here. Okay. You'll notice that we have this little step back button right here. Okay, and it's grayed out. But if I step into a folder, I can step back out of that folder by clicking there. Okay. I have my bin for my dances because I opened that up. My bin for my roll, my project pane. So these open up, because I double clicked on them, they opened up inside my same tab, okay, because that's my feature, because that's what I wanted it to do. I wanted to show you the media browser, okay. I should have showed you this on import, because this is access to my computer right here. So, and my Creative Cloud and anything I've got hooked up, any drives I have, you can see this, the drives I have hooked up. So I can access things this way. This is like, so I can find things using my media browser. I don't have to actually leave Premiere to go hunting things, okay? I'm usually a type of person who goes to the Finder, looks for them and drags them, drop them, but you can go to the media browser right here and do all that right inside the app without having to use it. Okay, most programs have your little media browser. Okay, so what I want to do, I create a new sequence. Okay, this sequence we're looking at here is the one that was created for dances. I could close this one. I don't need to open, I can close the panel. Okay, it's already still in here. Remember we looked at it earlier. So I want to bring video, and what I need is a sequence. So here's the video. Here's my main clip. This is Rob talking. Here you go. You can see. Hit the home key, and
if you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly
and you can
moving.
see
They're always
Rob talking.
They go around a circle.
We got a little noise in the background, and if
Mostly
you notice
sometimes reverse.
Audio meters here,
there's a lot of stops.
He's hitting a lot of
spins,
red.
A lot of boogie woogie steps.
So look at that. But this is my main. This is it. This is my main clip of this guy talking. And then I have B-roll of people dancing. And I have some music. And this is swing dance. Swing dance music. Okay. So you'll notice down here, I can find some info about my thing. You can see that Rob dialogue is 25 seconds, 1 frame long. My audio is 41 seconds, and these are my milliseconds, okay? All right, audio is done in milliseconds. This is done in frames, okay? Because a frame is in this file is 1/30th of a second. You can get a lot of music in 1/30th of a second. That's why we go down to milliseconds, all right, for audio. Video, frames. Okay. So what I want, this is my main clip. This is what I want to base my timeline on. I have no sequence. If I take this and just drop it right there, it creates a sequence that matches my video settings. Okay, this is an HD file, and so now my timeline is an HD timeline. Okay, I can come up to sequence settings in my timeline, check the sequence settings, and you can see I have 1920 by 1080. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. 1920. I just put my cursor on. Whoops! I put my cursor on there, and there you go. And one thing you have to remember to do is tab out of these dialog boxes and not hit OK. So here's 1920 by 1080, 16 by 9, square pixels, my color space, audio, everything I want. Okay, and that matches this video. I'll have to tell you now that this video is not HD video. This is video I've been carrying this lesson around with me for quite a while, and I just turned it HD just to match HD monitors. I was using it, so it's really an SD file, and so it's going to look really pixelated. And I won't be showing any color correction in this file because it's pretty pixelated, and it's just an editing lesson. Okay, we won't yell at the cinematographer for the crappy video that he gave us, and it's crappy because, you know, it was a smaller file size. I blew it up and exported it as HD just so it would fit my monitor. Okay, so again, any clip I click on, whether it's in the timeline or in my bin or in my project pane, shows up in the source panel. Okay, they all have their own timeline. Let's just, well, before we do that, let's talk about my timeline. Okay, so I dropped my video clip onto my blank timeline. It created a sequence that matched my video. Most of the times you want your video to match what you're importing. There may be times where you're working with different audio files. You want to match what you export is what your timeline is. So if you want to export, and I didn't want to export an HD file, 1920 by 1080, I wanted it to be 4K, or I wanted something else. No matter what my video is, what I export is what my timeline is, what my sequence is. Okay, so I can import one file and export another file. And that's what I did. That's how I turned these HD. I imported the SD file into an HD timeline sequence, relarged it to fill up the screen, and exported an HD file. Not the way you should do it, but I got HD files out of my lesson files. Okay, I have my source monitor, which shows me whatever I have selected, whether it's in the bin or on the timeline. I have my source and program is actually what their names are. Okay, so there we go. They all have different, you can see I have a ruler showing up here on mine here. That's just because I just showed rulers. They have the same transport controls, play around, markers, in, out, go to in, go to out, play, back one frame, ahead one frame, insert, overwrite, and export frame. And you notice on this, and of course I have my time code here. This little blue dialog box shows me where what my time code is. I can click in here and I can type in where I want to go on my time code. I can use math in these boxes too. I can click in there and say plus 200, which is move it 2 seconds down. Okay. This shows me where my playhead is. This number over here shows me the length, 25 seconds, 1 frames of this clip. Okay. I have my view. I'm showing 100%. I can fit. This is all my different views, what I've got here. We'll go to 100%. Okay. I have my little wrench here. My wrench just brings up different settings, different controls for that window. We'll talk about that later, not right now. It's a little bit more what we want to talk about. And you'll notice over here in this window that we have the same controls. Okay. I have a couple other ones that I bought. My comparison view where I can show before or after. I have play around, which plays around the playhead. And the reason why I have a couple a little bit more, and if you have Premiere, you may not have these, because this little plus sign right here lets me show all the different tools I can have drop down here. I'll just show you what these buttons do. Mark in, mark out, clear in, clear out. These are pretty good. I have keyboard commands for these, as you can see. Option plus I, Option plus O. Go to in, go to out, go to the next edit point, previous edit point, keyboard commands can do this. This is called the play video to in and out. Markers, go to marker, previous marker, next marker, previous marker. My basic transport controls. Play around, loop, insert, toggle proxies, toggle multi-camera view, record. I put my closed captions, export frame, safe margins. Safe margins are what you want to do. Well, we used to really worry about these when we did video for tube TV because, you know, the tube cuts off the corners and things like that. We don't really worry about that much anymore. A couple more inserts, extract, and a lift. Okay, these will extract the clip I want to clip on, and this will lift the information. This will overwrite, revert trim sessions, toggle VR, global FX mute, so that will turn off all the special effects so you can play your video a little bit quicker, see what it looks like without. Show rulers, show guides, snap to program monitor, comparison view, and space. Space in your video. Okay, so this little button, these are the other tools you can add to your toolbar. Okay, that's this little plus sign right here. Other than that, the two windows look relatively the same. Okay, again, we talked about my project pane. Here is my sequence. Okay, my timeline, my sequence. One thing I love keyboard commands. I love things that take my timeline to fit my window. Backslash key in Premiere will stretch your timeline to fit your window. Okay, and we'll just talk about what we have here. Go ahead, let's just zoom in on this. Again, the name. I got my settings for this, docking, working area. My time code, where my playhead is. You can see I move my playhead and my time code goes. Again, I can insert anything I want. I can also use math. That's 1 second. Moves my playhead 1 second. Insert overwrite sequences. I can do that. I want, because we're going to create a sequence and we're going to insert a sequence. We're not going to overwrite it, but you'll see that we'll be using this feature. Snap. You like snap unless you want to move your playhead somewhere else. Snapping is going to snap to the next clip, snap to your timeline tickers here. And you like snap, but sometimes you want to put it somewhere in between or close to another clip, but not touching another clip, and that's when you'd want to turn off snapping. Okay, link selection. Okay, by default, your audio and video are linked together. Okay, when you shoot with a camera, you record with a camera. So if you move your video around, the audio goes with it. If you clip it or trim it down, it trims together. And you usually like that. Sometimes you may not want your audio. You want to maybe do an L cut or a J cut where your audio goes beyond the clip or before the clip. And you'd have to delete the selection. Or delete the audio from the video. You'd have to unlink the selection. By default, they're linked. Add marker. This is M on my keyboard. And this is the timeline display settings. I can show my keyframes, my overlays, and other things. Minimize tracks, expand all tracks. Okay. And the little wrench is usually always the settings for the panel. Okay. All right. Let's just come down here a bit. And here we see we have 3 video tracks and 3 audio tracks. It's a default. I can open the file with 1 video track, 1 audio track, 100 videos, 300 audio. All I want. Everything I want. Okay. So we have a lock my track. The name of my track, toggle sync lock, so you may want to sync your tracks together. If you have overlays, you want to move them together. So we like this. This is my view, toggle track outputs. With the eyeball, you won't see it, and it won't output. We've got our main track. So if I want to work on video track 2, I need to select video track 2, or work on both of them together. When I'm doing my overlays and my imports and my insert, it goes on video track 1. Okay, I can insert. Everyone is my main master track. Okay. So I can, this is the track that my superimposing, or when I insert or import a file, or using one of my controls, my insert overwrite, it's going to go on whatever track this is on, okay? And the track is active, okay? A deactive track, you know, you can't move it or anything like that, but that's what it is. That's what this is. So I'm going to take my V1 track back to V1, turn off V3. Same with the audio, okay? What's the track? Is the audio going? Do I want it to move? I don't want it. If I put it on there, it'll overwrite track. If I want to save it, I can drop it down on track 3. My audio tracks can be stereo or mono. There we go. Again, my lock, my name of my track, my syncing the lock, muting the track, soloing the track, recording on the track. Okay. And I have a master volume track, which will control the volume for all 3 of these. Okay, I can control these separately, but this is the master for the whole project. Okay. This window here is a zoom window. Okay. If you have your timeline selected, the plus key zooms in, the minus key zooms out. The backslash fits the window. And there you go. If I want to make my tracks higher so I can read them or see them even more, I put my cursor between the track below and the track above and drag up. Okay, then it gives me enough space to see the track. Same with my audio track. I can put it down here and I can drag it down to size so I can see the waveform. Okay. And this also gives my keyframe, so I can actually add keyframes and change those. Okay, and jump from keyframe to keyframe. We're not doing any of that at the moment. Okay, up here I have my time code. This is in frames and seconds. Okay. You can see I have an option feet and inches, feet and centimeters and millimeters, meters and centimeters. But I use frames and seconds because, you know, we're shooting digital most of the time, and that's how your digital video files are recorded, not in feet and inches like film, but in frames and seconds. Okay, and over here on the far side, we have our audio meters. And
you see a couple
my audio
just
meters.
moving.
And
They're
they should
constantly
be
moving. They're always on the go.
Not hitting
they go
the
around
red.
a circle.
They should not be hitting the red. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So I'm going to show you a simple step to fix the background noise, okay? Just to remove that noise, okay? It's not really part of this lesson. It's not really, I take a little bit more time. I show you this later on. But since we were talking about it last week, I just want to add this to my lesson, okay? So what I'm going to do,
They're constantly moving. They're always on.
Remove that background noise, okay? So I'm going to right-click onto my audio track, and I'm going to edit clip in Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is Adobe's audio program, okay? It's a very nice audio program. I don't have enough time to show it to you. Simple stuff. I'll show you simple stuff, which is what we're going to talk about today. And here it goes, and it launches. So it's automatically going to launch the program. It's going to drop that in there, and there's my track.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple.
Rob talking. And all I really want to do about, you know, this is not an audio program. You're here at Trebas, and you'll have an audio teacher who will show you Pro Tools and audio things. I just want to show you how we're going to get rid of that background noise. Okay. And here I am in the background, and I'm zooming in on it a little bit, just to get it. And here's some background noise. I'm just going to select it. And you can hear it if I turn it up. Okay? So I want to get rid of that noise. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I have it selected in my timeline when nobody's talking. It's always good if you have audio to leave spaces so you can grab this where there's no talking. Same with video too. where there's nothing's going on. They call it the handles. So you always like to have some empty space. So I need some empty space so I can select that. So I can go to my effects parameter and my noise reduction and capture a noise print. Okay. So it's telling me, the dialog box telling me that this current selection is now captured as a noise print so that I can use it later on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all my audio. I'm going to go up to effects, noise reduction, and use the noise reduction process. So it's going to use my noise print that I took and remove it. Okay.
If you look at the Lindy,
and it's pretty clean. I didn't, when I showed you in class, I showed you because most of the time, you want default. Okay? Sometimes you don't. And you can see what's going on here with this default. Here's another thing that has lots of sliders. Okay? So you see all these little yellow pixels are my noise, the high noise. Okay? And the green is my threshold. What I want to do, I want to move my noise reduction so that my green covers up my yellow as much as possible. Okay? You can go to 100%, which is 100% noise reduction. And you can see the green now has covered up the yellow. Down here in my advanced tab, we have the decay. And let's just take my volume down. That's what I'm trying to do.
They're constantly
And I can play with my volume.
moving. They're always on the go. They go around in a circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps.
And you can see my space. I usually keep this low. I usually keep my noise reduction high and my spectral decay ratio down, low. But again, stop doing that. As I'm playing,
you use your whole body.
I can move my sliders around.
You use your arms. You use your hips. You use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
You can see the noise difference, right? So I'll take that up, and you can see we got a visual clue here. I'm trying to put the green over top of the yellow. Okay. From this window, I can already capture my noise print, but I already have it. I already got my noise print. I'll take this down low. I usually have this low.
It's moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go.
Okay. Reduce noise by, and of course, I can take this down to 1.
They go around in a circle.
And it doesn't really do much. By default, I'm up here.
Mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops.
I like that.
A lot of spins.
That's nice.
So
you're playing it and you're listening to it. But this does a pretty good job. You want to have the green cover the yellow, usually up by 100%. Reduce noise by anywhere from 20 to 10 to 20, dB. You're just.
You use your whole body. So you kick.
You move the sliders.
You use your arms. You use your hips.
I think that sounds better. Okay. I can output the noise only to see what kind of noise. Hear that? I don't want the noise. So that's what's being sucked out. You can see a little bit of his voices also. Okay, and oops, hit the home key.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving.
So that's
always on the go.
The effect off.
They go around in a circle.
Effect
mostly
on.
Clockwise, sometimes reverse.
Okay, there wasn't that much noise in there, but I did a pretty good job of removing it. I'm going to apply it, and look at that. You can see all the noise disappear there. Did you see that? There's the noise. Whoops. Edit, redo. There we go. And the noise is gone. Beautiful. And I can just save this. I can go back to Premiere, and it's already done. What it's done, though, is it took the audio track here and replaced it with this audio track. Okay, you can't tell.
They go around in a circle.
Video of this Rob talking about
if you look at the
Lindy Hop and dancing. And what we've got here in our B-roll is 5 video clips of people dancing. So we'll just take a look at them again. As I said, you always have to look at everything you have. You have to watch everything so you know what you've got to edit. There's that one. So this window's highlighted. You can see the blue bar around it, and that means my keyboard commands are related to this one, such as my home, which takes the playhead to the beginning. This is overhead. We got shots of everybody dancing. And we have this guy dancing solo. And this guy. This couple. Okay. So now we know what we got for our B-roll. Let's just find a good place to insert them. So I'm just going to hit play.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving.
Okay, so let's just insert one here.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving.
Just moving. I kind of like that. I think that's going to be my end point for my edit here. Okay, so look at a couple constantly moving. So we've got constantly moving. Okay, I think maybe we'll take this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so he's look at, so right when he's done looking at the camera, I don't like him looking at the camera. So right there you kind of see he's not. That's going to be my end point, and we'll play around till they spin around. And right about there. And I'm going to put, that's my out point. So I could click this button for my in point, this button here for my out point, or hit on my keyboard I for in, O for out, and that's what I did. I'm going to click this little button here that I added to my timeline. It's the play around button. So it's going to play my in and out. Okay, play in to out. Okay, I kind of like that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to insert either, if I insert it, what it will do, I'll show you that. I'll hit the insert button and you'll see it separates the track and inserts my clip. Okay. You know,
if you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around in circles.
You know, I kind of like that. I think I'm going to do that one, okay? I think I like that. I think I like that split there.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around in circle.
They go around in circles. He says,
mostly clockwise,
sometimes reverse. Okay, so there, that one.
They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around in circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse.
Sometimes reverse. Okay, so this one, I got my play right where he says sometimes reverse, and I'm going to load up Bloomies, because I think I remember seeing them going sometimes reverse. So they're going clockwise, sometimes reverse. I kind of like that. So what we got here, okay. So this is clockwise. Get my playhead. Clockwise and reverse. this way, and then back that way. So sometimes reverse. So you see he ends it right there. That's going to be my out point right there. Oh. And down here my timeline, I'm going to make that my out point too. Okay. So these two out points are going to match now. Okay, when I do that. So let's just bring a little bit in here, just when he starts talking.
They're constantly moving. They're always on the go.
They're always on the go. And that's going to be my in point. So what I've done here, this is where I want it to go, but I want it to end. I want this end point to match right here. Okay? So I've inserted where I want them to go, and on this one, so it's a 3-point edit. All I need is 3 points. I've got 1, 2, and 3. So I know this is the spot I want to fill up, and I put 2 out points, so I want this out point to match that out point. Okay? I don't care where it goes. It'll go in depending on how much room I have. Okay? So this time I'm going to overwrite the video of Rob with the video of my 2 people dancing. Okay? It has no audio. You can see from down here that there's no audio. There's no audio here. So there's no problem with me overwriting the audio track because this doesn't have an audio track. Okay, so I don't have to worry about it. I could lock it. I could deactivate the track, but I'm not worried about that because there's no audio. So I'm just going to click the overwrite button. Overwrite button, not the export frame. So we insert was the last one I did, and overwrite. And you'll notice the keyboard commands down here, comma and period. See that? So I'm going to click overwrite, and there we go. And let's just back this up a bit and see how it works.
They're always on the go. They go around in a circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps.
A lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. Okay. So let's see. You know, we have Johnny and Carrie already used, Bloomies. Let's go to spinning. Because the last thing he says as we go back here.
Times reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps.
A lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. Okay, so I think I'm going to use, my next insert is going to be...
There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps.
A lot of stops, spins, and boogie-woogie steps. Okay, so let's look at this couple here. So I've got, so as soon as there they are. And let's spin them around. There we go. Out. Okay. So that's the part I want. I'm going to click my play into out to see what I've captured. Okay, a lot of spin. So I'm going to insert this one right here. This time, you know, I have my playhead here. And so I can just deal with 2 endpoints, and it'll use my playhead as my 3rd endpoint. Okay, so you'll see here, I'll do another overwrite, and we got it there. Okay, let's just back that up.
Spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
Okay, you know, I'm not too crazy
You use your
about
whole
that.
body. So you kick.
You know something? Let's load up this guy here. So he uses his body and he kicks, but he's not spinning.
A lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what...
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert
spins,
another person dancing.
You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything.
You know, I think I'm going to...
A lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick.
You kick. So I got those people dancing. I'm going to put an in point there on that line. I'm going to take just a little bit of this guy too. And So I'm just dragging it in here, and I'm going to take this to, there we go, right about there. He's in the light. I like that. So there's right there with his foot up, and there we go. There, right there. That's my out point. Okay, and I want to insert this over here, so I'm going to overwrite that also. Again, I can always take this and drag and drop it. I can drop it here. I can drop it down to overwrite. Okay. I think I'm going to just drop it down to overwrite, and you're going to see.
Sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
Okay, so you'll notice, so I got my in point here, and it's always nice to get rid of your in points. So Option X gets rid of in and out. Option I gets rid of in. Option O gets rid of out. Okay. Option X gets rid of both of them. Okay. So you'll notice when I inserted my solo guy dance in here that I left a little bit of the original clip there. You see that? So it didn't fill up, didn't fit the fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace this clip, this little piece that's left over, with my last clip, the overhead dancing. So I have my playhead here, and I'm over top of this clip, and if I hit X, it gives me an in and out point that matches the length of this clip. Okay? And then now I'm going to load my overhead, and I'm just going to need a little bit of it, so it doesn't really matter where because it's pretty well the same shot. People dancing. So let's just put my playhead here. Let's hit the in there, and we're going to write that over. Okay? So I can just click here, and I overwrite that, and it'll overwrite perfectly. Okay? There's something else I can do. Let's just clear my in and outs. Click here, clear my in and outs. This is just loaded into the viewer. I can control click or right click on this and replace with clip from my source monitor. Okay? So right there, here's my source monitor. I have my overhead shot, and I just want to replace that clip with the one from overhead. And it just did it. Okay.
The whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
All right. So it's a simple.
Look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around in a circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
Okay, not bad. Not bad. Okay, so now let's go through some tools. Let's tighten up our little edits, and we'll go through the toolbar and see what else we can do. Okay. So here's my toolbar right here in the center. Okay. I have my selection tool, my track selection tool, and you can see some tools that have a little triangle down at the bottom corner where there's more tools under there. So I have my track forward selection tool and my track backward selection tool. Here I have my ripple edit tool, my rolling edit tool, my rate stretch tool. Okay. I have a razor blade. I have my slip and slide tools. I have my pen tool, my rectangle and ellipse tool, my hand tool, and my zoom tool. H and Z on the keyboard, you can see that, and my text tool, vertical and horizontal. So let's just back out. I got the move tool. Move tool lets me select clips. Okay, I can select a clip and I can move it around. Okay, I can also take a clip, and you see when I put my selection tool at the end of a clip, it becomes an arrow pointing which direction. So if I click, I can drag to shorten the clip, okay? Or lengthen it, depending on how I can shorten this one and then lengthen that one. Okay, that's not what I want to do. Okay, so what we have here, selection tool. So if I click here, it selects all the tracks forward. Let's deselect, and if I click here, use the other tool, it selects all the tracks backwards. See that? This one is attached to it, so that's why it's selected, because this audio track is linked to this track here. If I were to select this one, it would, because it selected everything for it. Okay, and this audio track is connected to these tracks. Okay, that's why it's selected. The next tool, of course, my track is the next tool is the ripple edit tool, the rolling edit tool, and the stretch. Okay, so let's move in a little bit. So this is the ripple edit tool. Okay, and so if I ripple, cut this track down, make it shorter, you can see my program monitor shows me the clip on the right that I'm shrinking, and by how much I'm shrinking it. It's new time code. Okay, and if I release the mouse, you'll see it ripples everything in. It brought everything in. Okay. Well, last time when I did it with just the move tool, I was left with the space. But this tool, ripple delete. So when I bring it, keeps everything together. Okay. We also have the roll edit tool, and the roll edit tool, if I click that, I'll be changing the in point of the clip on the left, and the out point on the clip on the left, and the in point for the clip on the right. And you can see my time code. You can see I can only go here. I'm done 4:27. That's because the clip on the left is only 4 seconds, 24 seconds and 27 frames long, and that's why I can't go any farther than that. Okay, there has to be data there for you to go longer. But this rip tool is the rolling edit tool. Okay, and you can see I can roll my edits. Okay, let's undo that. Let's undo that, because what it did, I rolled in this audio track that was already here, because I split this before, right? So if I roll this, I'm going to have to subtract it from that side. Just the audio. Okay, well, and the video too. Okay, and then we have the stretch tool. Okay, what this tool will do is it will slow the timing down. Okay, let's just, for now, take this clip, throw it on here over top on a superimposed lane, just so I can take this. Let's just make it a little bit bigger. Let's scroll it up. And you can see what I'm going to do by stretching it. I'm slowing it down. Okay? So now it's 77% of its space. I can't go any farther, but I can go the other direction. Okay? So the rate stretch tool. So now it's the same clip, same number of frames, but just a lot slower. Okay. We have a razor blade, and the razor blade, wherever you click, cuts your clips. Okay. If the clip has audio, it'll clip the audio track also. I don't really use that feature much. I'll tell you why. Wherever your playhead is at, you hit Command K, and it does the same thing. Okay. Command K will slice your track, split your track, it's just like the razor tool. Okay, so now we have the slip and slide tool. Let's just zoom in on this guy here. Let's just zoom in. Let's bring this over here a little bit more. There we go. So this is the slip tool, and if I click on this clip, you can see what's going on. Let's just back up a bit so you can see the monitor. So what this does, it's keeping the clip in the same spot. It's just changing its in and out point. Okay? So it's not altering any of the edits. It's doing, you can see at the top, we got the frame on the left, and the frame on the right, So we got the out on the left and the in on the right of the following clips, okay? And the slip tool is I'm just sliding what I want in there, okay? So I want to, so I can just change, here we go, we'll just do that, perfect. So they're both facing us, there we go. They end and they start and stop with the same position, okay? And I'll go back and you can see
moving.
I've now changed the position.
They're constantly moving.
Okay, the next tool, that was the slip. The slide tool takes this clip, keeps the same in and out points, but changes the in and out point of the two pieces on the side. So I can bring it over here and change my two in and out points. Okay. You didn't change the audio because I delinked these, and that's, I shouldn't have did that, but I did. But I can always fix that up later on. Okay. So let's take this one over here, and again, and you can kind of see the length that it has and how far I can go from one side to the next, okay? So I'm changing the input. I'm keeping the clip exactly the same. I'm just changing the in point on the right and the out point on the left. You can kind of see what's going on. I got, all right. And we'll just leave that right where it was. Slip and slide. I have the pen tool and a rectangle and an oval tool. The pen tool is my vector tool. It's for creating mask. It's for creating anchor points, keyframes, I mean. And here's an example of a keyframe, why I'd want that. You can see this little white line going down the center of my clip here. See this little white line? That's my opacity. Okay? And it can be other things. So by default, it's my opacity keyframe. It can be my motion. It can be the rubber banding for the keyframe and rubber banding for any of these motion parameters. It can be my opacity slider or my speed, my time remapping. Okay. By default, it's always opacity. You can see that a lot. So I can change what this little line represents by coming down, clipping. Control click or right click on my track and come down to the show clip keyframes. So I'm at opacity, that's what I want. Okay. So if I take my pen tool and I click on that little white line, I've added a keyframe. Keyframes are diamond shaped. When they're selected, they're blue. I will add another keyframe. You always need two keyframes to do anything. A keyframe is an animation. The program automatically animates between the value of the one keyframe, which is 0% opacity, to the other keyframe, which is 100% opacity. If I back out, hit the home key, you see
if you look at the Lindy
it
Hop,
fades in. See that?
that?
That's keyframing. That's my pen tool. My vector drawing tool, it's a very big tool. We'll be using it to create mask, to take motion paths, and all kinds of cool things. But for today, right now, it's for adding keyframes and working with our opacity slider. Okay. I can right click on the keyframe and turn it from a linear keyframe, which is a straight line going from 0% to 100, to a bezier. And a bezier lets me add handles, so I can change the way that'd be like a fast blend, slow bend, see that? All right. And I can bring this in a little bit more. It's just so it takes a little bit longer to zoom in. I can make it, that would be a very quick blend. This would be more of a slower one. Okay. Let's just back out to show that. Whoops, stop that. Let's back out, hit home, and
if you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving.
Okay. Constantly moving. Okay, the space bar is my hand tool. Whoops, it's also the play. H is my hand tool. I apologize. And this program, this is the one that's not H for the hand. Plus just zooms in. Minus zooms out. Hold it down the command key while you do it. Increases the track height. Backspace fills to the screen. Okay, so do one more thing here. I'm going to hit my pen tool. And I'm going to add a couple keyframes at the back. And let's fade the back. All right.
In the music.
There we go. Okay, so I have this I think I have my basic editing done for this one here. So you'll notice also, let's go back, step up. This is what this little button here, step back. You can see it's a step back into my project. So I step back out of that folder, takes me back to projects, okay? I want audio. I have some music. I'm going to just drop this on track 3. I'm going to hit the backspace so you can see this. Well, so this music.
You see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around in circle.
But what happens, you can see I got a lot more music here. That's because I have an intro for this, my little project here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my selection tool, which is V on the keyboard. I'm going to marquee all this and just slide. I got snapping on, okay? So I have my snapping on, and I'm going to bring this down here, okay, and snap it to there. I'm going to open up my folder with my intro animation, okay? I have blue screen. I have some edited text, some animation of a triangle that flies around. I have a backdrop. And I have a Photoshop, a sequence of a Photoshop file that dances for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a new sequence. Let's go open up this file again. And before I do that, I'm going to go back to my other dialogue, because you'll notice that my sequence is called Rob Dialogue, okay? It's called Rob Dialogue because when I first created it, I created it by dragging the Rob Dialogue video clip over top of dropped it into my timeline to create that sequence. I can drop it into the empty timeline, which is at the beginning. Other than that, you would drag it and you would just drop it on the new button, okay? And it would create a sequence that matched your work, okay? But it takes over the same name. I don't want to have the same name because it's not Rob Dialogue. It's going to be called, and here it is right here. Here's the sequence. You can tell, let's just show you this. You can tell that this is the sequence by the little icon here, and this is the audio clip of Rob Dialogue because it's got the video and audio, okay? This one has the sequence icon. So I can tell that this is the sequence. Okay, if I double click Rob Dialogue, or right click and rename is really what I should do. Right name, and let's call this Dance Shot. Okay, there you go. And you can see Dance Shots. This one I'm going to close. I don't need this one anymore. Okay. Up here I changed the name in my project bin, and it corresponding up here, Dance Shots. Okay. All right, so let's create our intro now. Okay, so I'm going to have, I'll show you, I'm going to have a backdrop of the curtain, and then I'll have these people dancing. And how long do I want to make it? You know, let's see. I've got like almost 13 seconds, 12 seconds. Okay. So let's make a timeline. This should be the right size. I got this, the blue screen. All these videos are the right size and frame rate, so I can just drop them down because I created these on my new sequence button, create a new sequence. I don't want to call it blue screen because let's right click, rename, and we're going to call this sequence intro. Beautiful. And I'm going to delete blue dance because I don't want it. Okay, this is what I want. And this is a still document, okay? And let's just drop it in the timeline. And you can see my still document is over here. You can see it's 4 seconds, 29 frames. I have the option of dragging it out, making it as long as I want. You know, this could be time consuming if I was bringing in a bunch of video clips and I wanted them all the same length, and every time or still documents, whether they're JPEGs or Photoshop, and they're still with no time attached to them. You know, I can set the time before I import them, you know, because it saved me a lot of time if I want them all 10 seconds, you know, instead of me dropping them in and stretch them out to 10 seconds. It's nice to import them at 10 seconds. And I can do that in my preferences. And the preferences under timeline, that's where it is. It's in the timeline section. We'll go through these preferences another day, and I don't want to take you through now. We're just trying to do, and you can see right here, let's zoom in on this. You can see it says still image duration 5 seconds. Okay, that's why it came at 4 seconds, 29 frames, because that's actually 5 seconds in video. Because the 29th frame at the end of it, you're at 5 seconds. Okay, that's why 4 seconds, 29 frames is actually 5 seconds. Okay, so you can see there, and of course, if I wanted it 10 seconds, I would change that to 10 seconds. I got a default for my audio and video transitions. You know, I can change that anytime. I can do it any way I want, but this is the important part. If I'm going to import a whole bunch of still images and I want them a certain amount of time, I will change this in my preferences before I import them. Okay, I think we want this to be not 3 minutes long, that's for sure. I think we're going to go, let's hit home, and I want to go, I'm going to click here, 1200 is 12 seconds. Command K, split the track, delete that, backspace, and there you go. I've got 12 seconds of my background. Okay. And it says 12 seconds there. Okay. It should be 11 seconds, 29 frames, but sequence set, named intro, it's 12 seconds long. I have my background. Let me select it, hit home. Okay, so now let's look at my assets I have here. I have my triangle. It sits there for, what we got, 4 seconds almost. Sits there for 4 seconds and then flies out in a second and then stays there for 2.5 seconds. Okay, and then I've got these people who dance, my blue screen people are dancing, and they last for 5 seconds and 6 frames. And I've got my text. This one, not that one. That lasts for 3 seconds. Okay. So I'm going to have these all overlap. Of course, I'm going to have my background, and what I want is my triangle. And then I'm going to have my people dancing on the triangle, and when the triangle takes off, they'll disappear somewhere. And then I'll have my text at the end come in, just as the people are flying off. So let's see how this works. And then at the beginning, I've got my names that are flying around. Let's get to work now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my triangle movie and load it into the viewer. Okay. This is 7 seconds, 10 frames long. I want the whole clip. I'm going to grab it all, so I don't need to put any in and out points. You know, I can just grab it and just drag it right to the timeline. Okay, or I'll show you how to superimpose. I mean, I can just drag it to the timeline and just drop it where I want on on video track 2, which is what a lot of people do. Most people do dragging and dropping. I love dragging and dropping. Makes life easier. Or I can actually use my insert button, and of course I want, when I insert this with my insert bar or my overwrite button, I want it to go on video track 2. So I'm going to click up here to activate as my main track video track 2. Okay, I can deselect video track 1 at the moment, and then when I come here I can, so this is 7 seconds, I've got 12 seconds here. I'm just going to move my play it ahead 2 seconds by clicking here and typing 200, which is 2 seconds. Okay, and I'll put my end point there. Okay, and then I'll come over here and I'll just click the overwrite button and drop that on video track 2. So now you can see my triangle is on video track 2. Okay, so I'm going to move, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to move, so now what I want to do, of course, I'm going to put my play it back to 2 seconds, 200. And I want to superimpose these people over top of my triangle. Okay. And I want it to go in the same spot. And of course, I want it to go on video track 3. So I'm going to move my track indicator to video track 3. And I'll just turn off video track 2 and turn on video track 3. And I want to take all of that right here. I don't even need a endpoint, because if I don't have an endpoint, it'll go where my playhead is. Okay, my playhead's right where I want it. And so let's overwrite that on video track 3. Okay. So we're getting there. What I want to do now, though, is I want to see my triangle and work with my people here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on this track, and so it's a blue screen, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. There's ways that do it here in Premiere Pro, but one thing nice about having Premiere Pro is, well, you're leasing it from Adobe, but you also get everything else that they have also, which is very important. You can't live without Photoshop and After Effects in your video editing. And so I'm going to take this clip and convert it into an After Effects composition. And it's a back and forth, so there's no exporting and importing, so it's Adobe's dynamic link is what they call it. So if I'm going to right click or control click on this and say replace with an After Effects composition. So I do that, and it's going to launch After Effects. There it goes. And here I'm in After Effects. And so what I'm doing is I'm also creating an After Effects composition or file by doing that. So I'm going to give that right now here, and I'm going to call that, what should I call it? Let's call it blue screen, because that's what really what it is. Okay, and click OK. And then here I am in After Effects. Okay, this is After Effects project pane. You can see I have my file, my blue screen MP4 file that I brought over from After Effects, and the composition. And the composition is in After Effects is the same thing as a sequence in Premiere. Okay, it's a timeline, and well, it's much more than that, and you will learn that. Okay, and here's my file on here, and here's representation of it on my timeline. You can see I can play, and there's the file there. Okay, so I want to key out the blue. So I'm going to go to the effects panel, and I'm just going to, which is right over here, and I'm going to just type in my effects panel, I'm going to type key. Keying. So, and we have various keys, but the main one in After Effects is Keylight 1.2. It's a plugin that comes in After Effects, and it's great for removing the background, keying out the background. So I have that, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it right on my video clip. And nothing happened, but that's all right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here to the effects control panel. Okay, the effects control panel, whenever you apply effect in After Effects, the next thing you do is go to the effects control panel. Okay. First thing, we can have a few things. We got final results, intermediate results, status, combined, matte, and I'll show you these different sources. The sources, I'll show you that. I mean, the main thing what you see here, of course, you see my stopwatch in front of everything. That means these can be keyframed. All the settings that have a stopwatch in front of it mean they can be keyframed. Okay, I won't be doing any keyframe in this project, but that's what the stopwatch means. Screen color, what color do I want to make transparent? And you can see I have a little eyedropper. I'm just going to click on the blue. I'm going to back out, you can see what happens. So the blue mostly got transparent. Okay. I can try to pick up these colors too. Let's do that one more time. Maybe I can, let's undo that. Let's come here. Let's try to pick maybe this color blue. That's a little bit better. Okay. So picking the color close to my subjects is much better. Here you can see. So I got pretty good transparency. I can actually view the transparency here in After Effects by clicking this button. By default, you usually work with a black background, or you can choose any color in After Effects. But by default, it's usually black. Okay, but it's not always black, it's just transparent. But it's kind of hard to work at that checkered background, so that's why I'm looking at black. Okay, I can always bring in another file to check out my transparency here. It's not bad just with that one effect there. But this is a pretty degraded file because this was an SD file which I turned into an HD file just because I've been carrying it around for so long. I wanted an HD file. So it's really degraded. I will show you, I'll have more lessons in the green screen, using the key lighting and transparency in After Effects. What I could do at this time is I could import in that same file. I have a Photoshop document. That's curtain. Just throw that in the back and see what it looks like. I want to bring it in as footage, meaning just like film. I don't want a new composition. I don't want to do that. I just want to bring in merge layers. I just want to bring it in as a background, and that's what I want to do. So I'm going to take it there, and I'm going to drop it in my timeline in the background. And we can kind of see how these people look, Not that good. Let's click back on here on their layer so I can get to the effects control window, and I'm not going to work because this file is pretty degraded and I don't think there's much I can do other than what I've done here. But you can see what I've done. I just selected the back color. I used the default in key light and it did a pretty good job. Okay, so you can see I've got some blue back. My blue screen did not cover up my whole background. I had some white showing through from the wall that was behind the dancers. So I need to get rid of that thing, and I would get rid of the white. And there's a few things I can do. I can just create a mask that will mask out that part of the thing. That might be the easiest. I could just take my selection to have this layer selected, and if you make one of your drawing tools, the rectangular ellipse, rounded rectangle, polygon, or star, or the pen tool, while there's a layer selected and you draw, you create a mask. Okay, I'll make the mask as big as the layer, minus the side there, and you can see it's gone. Okay, so this was all transparent, and so it was a pretty easy mask to get rid of. And so there you go. And so you see I've masked out that part of the file. Okay. And that's because my mask was an additive mask. was a subtractive mask, you would see it would do the opposite. Okay, so but I had it turned it was an additive mask, and they are by default. So what you select is not masked, and what is left over is masked. Okay, there you go. All right, so that's an easy way to get rid of that problem. And I'll just make my mask fit the side there, just because. There you go. I just took my selection tool, deselected my mask, and then reselected these two little anchor points to make them fit there. Okay. So I don't need the blue background anymore. I don't need to look at my mask. Just click away. Let's take my blue background, the curtain document I brought in just to check my key. So let's delete that, save my file, go back to Premiere, and ta-da. Okay? What we did in After Effects is now here in Premiere. Okay? Works perfectly. You'll notice that the layer turned orange. Okay? And it's now linked to the my blue screen A. So if I go back and work on that, it's up there. So it's what I'd call a dynamic link. Okay? Back and forth, no exporting or importing, just that. Okay. So what am I going to do? You can see that I have a red bar here. Okay, this red bar is telling me that I'm not going to be able to see this in true motion. You know, it looks pretty good. My GPU is doing a pretty good job, but you can see how it stutters, right? So that I can actually look at this, I'm going to render this effect right here. I'm going to put my playhead on top of you can see the layer selected. And if I hit X, it puts a in and out point at the beginning and the end of this clip. Okay. Because what I want to do now is I want to render this effect to get rid of that red bar. The yellow bar means the same thing. It should be green. The yellow is no problem. My computer can actually still show me a relative simple my effects. But the red, it jumps. So I'm going to go to the sequence menu and render in to out, because I hit X to put it in and out over top of that clip, and I'm going to render just in to out. And back up in. It should play. Okay. Excuse me. So I like to get rid of my in and out points when I don't want them. Option X. Option X clears in and out. Okay. So what I want to do now, you can see, I want them to dance on my little triangle. So let's put them here at the beginning, and they're not where I want them. So I'm going to click on here, click on the clip to select their layer. Okay. I can come over to Effects Control. I can go to the Scale category. I can scale them. I can change their position, their rotation, their anchor point, their scale, all right here in my Effects Control pane. Okay, and anything with a stopwatch in front of it can be keyframed. But I'm going to do that in my window over here. Okay, and so I can do the same thing in my window. I don't want any keyframing going on. I just want them to stay on top of my triangle. I'm going to shrink them down again. You can see I grabbed a corner point with my selection tool, which is V on my keyboard. I selected an anchor point and I'm bringing it in. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the corner point, scale it in, and so now I move my cursor inside the little frame. I'll click on, not on the center point, that's my point of registration. I'm just going to click on them, and let's see how they dance. If they dance, you know, I put them right in my spotlight there. So they're dancing, and then it takes off. You know, I think I'm going to move them over a little bit. There we go, like that. You know, I can even make them a little bit bigger, I think. they go. The triangle's done, but all right. Perfect. Again, now that I resized them, I need to render my effect again. But I'm not going to worry about it this moment. But you see, I've got something going on here. I'm going to just go to my timeline area over here. I'll just zoom in on that. Put my mouse, my pointer over top at the top of the track, and drag up. I'm going to drag up because I want to fade off my people. You can see. Either fade them out or have them disappear. But you can see what's going on here is my triangle's moving. So right just before my triangle moves, let's go ahead one frame at a time there. My triangle moves there. I think these people have to be gone. All right, so I'm gonna, let's see. What am I gonna do? I think I may take my pen tool, and you know that this white line is my opacity line. So I think I'm gonna just fade them out. So I'm gonna add a keyframe right at that moment, just before the triangle takes off. I'm going to add a keyframe at the end. I'm going to drag the keyframe down. So we got opacity. So you can see here what's going on. We got, right? They're not disappearing quick enough for me, but they are disappearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to control click or right click on this keyframe and choose a Bezier handle. You see, I can still have the pen tool as my active tool. I'm done adding anchor frame, adding keyframe, so I don't need my pen tool anymore. So I'm going to hit V on my keyboard and change it to the selection tool, just so, because I don't want to accidentally add a keyframe when I'm trying to grab my Bezier handle. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to pull it down to give it a real quick ramp from 100 to 0. So now they're going to disappear a lot quicker. Maybe not quick enough. Let's bring this like this. There we go. Let's play that. They're dancing on the triangle. And they're going. Whoops. Oh, what was that? I see. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to get here, and I'm just going to remove this part of the clip. I don't need it. Okay. Try that one more time. Perfect. Okay. One more time. Okay. So my play is a little bit longer, and then it disappears. So what I'm going to do now, I've got that text. My swing dance today. Let's hit home. It goes. Okay. And how long is that? That is 3 seconds, 4 frames. Okay. Let's just put her on the next. I'm going to grab this one because I'm not too sure where I want to put it. I'm going to grab all of it, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it on this frame. Okay. I can shrink up this track now. I don't really need to look at it full anymore. This one. So what we have here, we have, yeah, I like that. I think that works. We'll see. Okay. So now I have my dancing text. My files over here. My 4 Photoshop documents. Jitterbug, Boogie Woogie, Carolina Shag, Lindy Hop, and sequence that has all 4 of them. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, I'm in the intro sequence timeline here, and I'm going to create in its own sequence my dancing text. I'm going to have them fly in and fly out, and then I'm going to add that sequence to this effect. I think that's what I'll have going on here the first few seconds. You know, we'll see. I think they'll have it. I got 5 seconds there. You know, I could keep this moving along. We'll see what happens. Because I got 12 seconds. Yeah, we'll fit it. We'll make it all work. Okay, so you can see here I am. Now I'm in the timeline, my sequence for my Photoshop file, and here's my 4 layers. Okay, you can see they're actually named. And this name came from the Photoshop document. This is it's called dances.psd, and this is the name of the layer. Okay, and I want to stagger those layers. My whole animation, let's click back to intro, and you can see this part takes up from 2 seconds to 9 seconds. This is about 7 seconds long here. As you can know, my triangle is 7 seconds. I wanted to stay behind there perfectly. And you know something? I'm going to, while I'm here, I'm going to select this intro, and I'm going to, instead of leaving it down there at 2 seconds, I'm going to have it snap to the end. And I have snapping on so I can see my triangle snap to the end. And so that gives me, what do I got there? I have almost 5 seconds. Okay. And then till this comes up, I got 5 seconds, and that comes up about 8.5. Yeah, so if I do 2, this is 3, that gives me 9. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this file, and I'm going to select all those, and I'm going to shrink them down a bit. I can just grab them here and use my playhead, shrink them down to 3 seconds. And that's 2, 4, 8. You know, let's do the 2.5 seconds. Okay, cut them in half. Okay, so I brought them down to 2.5 seconds. 2 seconds, 15 frames, which is 2.5 seconds. A little bit more, actually, one frame more, but we're not going to worry about that. So now what I want to do is I want to stagger them. Okay, and I got Lindy Hop at the bottom now. You can see it's there, Lindy Hop. And I want that one to start first. So I'm going to move these 3 down, and then I'm going to stagger them. So I'm going to shift click on Lindy Hop to deselect it from the 4 that I have selected. And on my keypad, I'm going to hit plus 200 to move those ahead 2 seconds. Okay. I'm going to hold down the shift key, deselect the next one, Carolina Shag, hit plus 200, enter. And you can notice my time code bar is now typing in what I hit on my keypad. I have an extended keyboard, and I'm using the keypad to enter into my timeline box to push things ahead. If I didn't have those selected, I'd be moving the timeline. Okay, the playhead. Okay, but what I'm moving is I have something selected, so I'm moving those, and I'm moving them ahead 2 seconds. Enter. I hold down the shift key to deselect the last one, and I do the same thing, plus 200 for 2 seconds, 0 frames. I hit enter, and there we go. Hit the home key, put my playhead at home, hit the backslash to fit the timeline to the window. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do some animation. I want the text to be on the outside and fly in for a couple seconds and then fly out. Okay. So I have this layer exactly where I want it. I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to load it into the viewer, into the source monitor, and I'm going to click my effects control, because now it's in the source monitor. Effects control is related to what's in the source monitor. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to keyframe this. I'm going to make it fly in and fly out, but I want it, this is where I want it for the main part of my animation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe it right where I have it, because this is where I want it to stay. So let's just fly in for half a second. And so I'm going to keyframe it, and I want it to sit there for a full second. So there's two things I can do. I can look at my timeline, like what I'm doing. I'm zooming in and I'm looking at my timeline to see where I want to drop it. I could take it back to where it was before, and if I wanted to move it ahead 1 second, I would just click in my timeline window and hit plus 100, and it moves my playhead ahead 1 second. And I can come up to my effects control panel, and so when I click the stopwatch, what I did is I turned on animation. I toggled keyframe on. Okay, if I hit it again, I'll turn them off and it'll delete all my keyframes. So what I want to do, and when I turn this on, the first thing it does, it drops a keyframe where my playhead was. You can see there's a keyframe there at 15 seconds where I was. And so if I want to add another keyframe, so we're here at 2 seconds, I can change my value, and I don't want to change the value. I want it to stay right here in the center of my document. But I want to add a keyframe there. Because if I change anything, so the only way it's going to stay still is if I have 2 keyframes with the same value. Okay, 2 keyframes, and this one had a different value. I'd have motion between that keyframe and this keyframe. Well, there is a way to stop that, but that's another lesson altogether. But so if I want it to stay still for 2 keyframes, I need 2 keyframes. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit home, hit the home key, not the end key. Home puts me at the beginning, end puts me at the last frame. Not at the very end of the clip, but at the beginning of the last frame. Okay? You don't want to be at the end because nothing's at the end. When you're at the end, you're nowhere. Okay, you want to be at the beginning of the last frame. So now I've added keyframes. This little triangle lets me jump to keyframes back and forth. This is how I move on my keyframes. Because if I want to alter any value on a keyframe, you have to be right on it. Not just close to it, but right on it. You can see how it highlights blue. And so I use these 2 little triangles to jump from one keyframe to the next. Okay. Because not only do I want to stay the same position, because I'm going to have this fly in, but I also want it to scale up. And I think I want it to rotate, and I think I want it to fade in and fade out too. So what I'm going to do here while I'm on this first keyframe, I'm going to put a keyframe for scaling, for rotation, for opacity. Okay? And I want them all to have this value. 100% opacity, rotated center in the document, and at 100%. Okay, I'm going to click over here to jump to the next keyframe in my positioning, and I want to do the same thing. I'm going to add a keyframe for scaling, but I got to do it here. The first time I did it over here to initiate keyframing, the first one. All the other ones are done over here. Or if you change the value, which you'll notice here when I'll do this later. Okay, so now nothing's going to happen. So now I'm going to hit the home key and back out. I'm going to do this myself. And you'll see we'll be adding keyframes. This. Everything but opacity. And I'll do that manually. So I'm going to shrink this down. And then I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it over here. Okay. And shrink it down a little bit more. And so what I have here is I got animation, so it's going to travel from there to there. Okay. So I made the window smaller, so I affected scaling. And you can see I have a keyframe at scaling. And not only that, I did the positioning by moving the box, and I added a keyframe for, and I'm having the difference between my 2 keyframes. Nothing's happening here, but here it is. Okay. So what I'm also going to do here at the beginning at home is I'm going to take my rotate tool. Well, my selection tool, and if I put my selection tool on the outside of the box, you can see it turns to the rotate tool. Let's see, I'll just zoom in on that. See that? So just go to the corner, and then I'm going to just zoom out and rotate a few times. You know, I could just type a number in here, and it's, you know, let's just have it rotate. Well, it's rotating 3 times and starting at 324 degrees. Okay. So in my rotate is the number of rotations and the angle that we're starting at. Okay, we know it's going to end up at 100 because that's where we want it. That's why we keyframed it there. And you can see when I bring it now, it's going to rotate as well as come in. And the last thing I want to do, I'm going to come over here to my opacity slider and take this down to 0 because I want it to fade in as well. Okay, so I'm going to hit the end key, and at the end, you notice I can't really see it now because Carolina's shag is there because I have them overlapping by a second. So what I'm going to do temporarily, I'm just going to go to the layer on my timeline on the eyeball. It's my Carolina shag that's blocking my view. I'm just going to turn the eyeball off. Okay, so it's gone. All right, just so I don't have to worry about it. So now I'm at the very end, at the beginning of the last frame of Lindy Hop, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to move it over here and rotate it a few times. I'll just type a number in here in my rotation. Let's just drag it around like that. There we go. Okay. I want to explain one thing here. You can see what we have here. This is my motion path. You can see my motion path. My motion path from the first keyframe coming into this keyframe. The keyframes are these little blue squares. You can see when I put my cursor over it, it lets me know I have a keyframe selected. I can move the keyframe around. I don't want to because it's in the center. So this is my motion path, and it's linear, and you can see each dot here represents where my graphic is going to be at that specific frame. Okay, you can see it jumps from frame to frame. You'll notice one of them is a little bit bigger than all the other ones, and that one is my Bezier handle. And I can click on that and curve my motion path. So I can change the way it flies in. So let's just do that. I'll do this one over here too. I'll have it come zooming down. And there's another one up here at this end too. So both keyframes have their own Bezier handle. All right, so I'll pick this one up here. Whoops, it's kind of hard to see because my graphic's in the way. So I'm just going to take that, move it back all the way up to the top. There we go. So there I can grab that. There it is. There, it's out of my way. And now I can grab it. So now you can see my motion path. It's going to fly in and fly out. Okay. And here's my path. So what I don't have, let's go back. Let's jump from keyframe to keyframe. There we go. Something happened here. I shouldn't have that keyframe there. That is a mistake. Let's delete that. That was me moving my Bezier handle while I wasn't on the frame. And I altered my path so it affected the position and added a keyframe where I didn't want it. Gotta watch that. Okay, and so the next thing I do, my rotation and my opacities. Let's fade out. And you can see these keyframe between that one is a shorter distance than this one, So that's why it's actually taking longer to fly out. You see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to marquee all these keyframes and center them. So I'm just visually centering. And you can see my frame positioning move on my window because I'm moving the position of where those keyframes are in the timeline. So that looks kind of neat. I like that. The next thing I'm going to do, all these are linear keyframes. You can tell they're just diamonds, okay? What I want to do is I'm going to select them all by marqueeing them all. Come on. Click here. And come on, thing. Then I'll click over here. Go up. So I'm going to marquee them all. There we go. So I've marqueed all the keyframes so that I can actually alter their interpolation, the speed of the keyframe. So I'm going to go to the temporal interpolation, interpolation, sorry, the temporal interpolation of my keyframe motion. And I want to add ease in and ease out. Okay, so easy in, ease out. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And now I have them there. Okay, I can like that. So now you can see what happens is that it slows down and speeds up. It kind of maybe kind of hard to tell here in our fast, but now I have a more gradual frame. So it's not a linear path, my motion, it's a gradual. So it speeds up and then slows down into these keyframes. Speeds up and then slows down. Okay. There you go. So now there's that one. Let's do the next one. But what I can do to save me a little time here is I'm going to actually, well, no, I'm not. Okay, so you can see now here I got my animation done and I'm going to work on my next one. I'm going to click the eyeball so I can see it again. I'm going to double click on it to load it into my source monitor, and so now it's the one that's under effects control. I hit home, it comes to the beginning of that, the beginning frame of that. Again, I want to keyframe it where it's at right now. I want to keyframe it where it's at right now. So again, somewhere around here. So the length is, so double click on the Carolina Shag. It's 2.5 seconds long. 2.5 seconds long. So I'm just going to click here and I'm just going to keyframe it right around here somewhere. You know, all of them. Their position again, because I want them to stay here. I'm not going to move the anchor point and just the opacity. Okay. And you know, I could, if I wanted to, I could just select all these keyframes, move my timeline out of the way, hold down the Alt key and drag them over here and just duplicate them like that. Okay, then I have keyframes that stay the same. Go to the beginning. Now, double click on Carolina Shag. And this one's going to fly in from the bottom and fly out from the bottom. Shrink her down. Move it over here. Rotate it a few times and lower its opacity to 0. Okay. Hit the end key to take it to the beginning of the last frame. If you're at the very end, and you can see by looking at this clip, I'm not at that. So I'm at the beginning of the last frame. And you got it. That's nowhere. Okay. You got to be there. The beginning of the last frame. Okay. There we go. Okay. So again, Boogie Woogie's in my way, so I'm going to just turn its eyeball off for a second. And let's just go to make sure we're on that keyframe. Let's take my opacity down to 0. And let's just grab my Bezier handle and play around with it. And this one also. All right. So we'll see that's coming in that way. Okay, I'm going to unlock that one, turn its eyeball back on. And what I'm going to do, instead of doing all this keyframe stuff, is I'm going to click the file and I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy. What I want to copy is the attributes here. Okay. I'm copying. I just copied here. And what I want to do is I don't want to copy the Lindy Hop, but I want to copy all the keyframing that I did. Because I want to go down to this track and I want to paste attributes. Paste attributes. So the attributes I want to paste is my motion, my opacity. Okay. So my main motion is my scaling, rotation, and position. And my opacity. I didn't do any time remapping. I don't have any effects. It's just the scale attribute and the timing I want to paste. And so I click OK. And now this one has the same one as the first one. Okay. And I can come to this one and copy that one and go to this one and paste attributes. And thank you. So now I have some animation going on. Okay. And it's 8.5 seconds long. It's into my dances sequence. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my intro sequence and I'm going to add my dances sequence to right here, right on top of everything. And I drop it in this empty space up here and it creates its own timeline. Okay, its own track for me. Okay, not its own timeline, but its own track. And that's we have it. There we go. And you can see that's moving all slow because I have to render this. Okay. So you can see the yellow and the red need to be rendered. Let's just render this. What happens when I render the whole, select the sequence, make sure nothing else is selected. There we go. Just select the sequence. Okay. And I'm going to go render effects into out. Okay. And I don't really have an in and out, but it knows how long I have here. So this is going to take a while. Estimated time, 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Okay. I'll see you in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. I'll just stop recording. We're going to add the intro timeline or sequence into our dance shots. Okay. All right. Because just earlier we added dances, our dances timeline into, or sequence into our intro timeline, just like that. And now we're going to take intro and drop that into dance shots. Boy, that's hard to say. Okay, and I can tell which is the sequence because it's got the little icon here. That's a sequence. And look at it says sequence too. So I'm just going to take that. That is 12 seconds long. And all my people start here right at 12 seconds. So that's going to work out perfectly. So it's going to just drop it right in there. It's going to fit perfectly. Okay. And let's play and see how it looks and sounds.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around the circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps. You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
Perfect. Got some room for my credits. Okay, there's one thing I did notice is kind of right there into there. So I'm going to there to there. You can see it's kind of like a little sharp. So I'm going to fade out my sequence to match the fade in of Rob talking. Okay, and you know, just like the last time, I'm going to do that with the pen tool. Okay, and I'm just going to add a keyframe right here and one at the end. And this slider is my opacity slider. I know it is because it's the default. We can turn it into other things, but it's my opacity slider. Okay, my rubber band. So I'm going to just take this down here, match it up. I'm going to go to my move tool because I want to right click or control click, add a Bezier handle, and let's just take this down to kind of match the other one. Okay. Take it back a bit. Okay, that looks like they match kind of like. See what it looks like.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Maybe I'll just click there. Maybe I'll just. What's this?
If you look at the Lindy Hop,
Perfect. Okay. So, but now what I want to do,
just moving.
I want the audio to come down while he's speaking. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just, sorry, click, there we go, and shrink that audio track and make this one bigger. And there's and on audio, so on video, that little white line is opacity. On audio, it is for my volume control, okay? 0 dB. So you're not really in control of the volume the guy at home is. You want to give them as much volume as possible without static or distortion. And you can see by my red hitting the red over here and that red staying there, I've gone too high. You can see on my waveform too where the spikes are, where they've actually gone above. Okay, we don't want that. So what I'm going to do, and I want the music to go down while Rob's talking. Okay, and how I usually do it is I get my pen tool and I click and I bring the volume down. I'm going to show you another technique, and I'm going to click on the audio tab, which brings up the audio mixer. Okay, and you can see I've got my master track.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see.
So the music's good,
just moving.
But see how Rob's getting.
They're constant.
I'm taking Rob down. I'm going to take Rob down 4%, 4 octaves. Music's also peaking too at the very beginning. I'm going to have to take that down too. Let's see what Rob talks about.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around the circle.
There you go.
Clockwise, sometimes reverse.
But my music's peaking up way too much, so let's bring that down in the mix too. Okay. Sit home. There we go. So you want to hit it. The sweet spot is 12. Okay. That's what you try to
If you look
get.
at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go.
There we go. I'm happy with that. I haven't peeked out anywhere.
There's a lot of stops.
You can see here, it's like 2 or 3, depending on which meters you're working. I'm not a real audio guy, so I don't know. But you can see there, we solved that problem. So also what I could do, we could record, and I could actually bring these sliders down, and it adds keyframes. Every time he starts talking, I bring the sliders down. Well, I like doing it another way. That's a little bit. I'll show you that one day, but not now. Okay. I like using to control my whole audio, but I can also add keyframes, and I can control each track. So you can see each track, and so I can control the volume of each track, the master volume. I can pan it left or right. I can turn it into a recording channel. This is my master, which controls everything. I can use any mic I want. I can turn it master, attach it to the master knot. I can pan it left or right. And I can mute solo or turn it to a recording, enable recording with this track. I would just need more tracks, you can see. And I can just add more tracks easily just by control clicking and adding tracks, or going up to my clip menu, or dragging audio down here. Okay, it's very easy to add tracks. Go to the sequence settings, add tracks that way too. Okay, so I did what I wanted to do here in my audio setting. I just wanted to bring the 2 volumes down so they match, and they both are matching. So Rob starts talking, you can see we're all sitting about the same spot.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you see a couple just moving.
Okay, good. Let's go back to the editing section. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. And I can see here on the timeline with the waveform when Rob's talking. You know, I can see his waveform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pen tool, P on the keyboard. And to take your audio, and this is called ducking. Some programs have automatic ducking. You know, Premiere may even have automatic ducking. You never know. I should find it. I will find it. I think DaVinci Resolve has automatic. What they call ducking is that, and I know iMovie has it, and Final Cut Pro has it, that you play your audio and your music and you turn automatic ducking, and what it does every time a vocal track starts, the music lowers. Okay, and it's done automatically. I'm going to do it manually by adding 4 keyframes. You need 2 to bring it down and 2 to bring it back up. Because if I just had 1, I'd bring everything down, the whole line. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing it down between this keyframe and that keyframe. So, and of course I'm going to hit the move tool now, because what I want to do now is I'm just going to grab the section between these 2 keyframes. The 2 outer keyframes are keeping the volume at 0 dB. The 2 middle keyframes are letting me grab the volume and bring it down. Well, I don't want to take it down that much. I still want to hear some of the music. Let's take it down. So you can see my volume down there. It says 14 dB. Let's just see what that sounds like.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving.
I like that. I think that sounds pretty good. So that was 14 dB.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving.
All right, I like that. Problem is, I think I'm going to bring this over a little bit. And this one too. Because when he's done talking, I want it to be back up at 100. There we go. There you go. I want that 0 dB. There you go.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly...
Okay, I think I like that. But before I finish this and do all these at 14, let's bring it up to 12. All right, come on, 12. All right, 12.2. Close enough.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving.
I think I like 12 better.
They're
Okay, so now let's just move along. Okay, I'm zooming in a bit because I want to bring it down while he's talking. Okay, let's see what's going on in between here.
They're constantly moving. They're always on. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to bring it down again. So back up here, let's just take this. Right there. There we go. And let's click here and bring her down to, whoops, don't add a keyframe thing. Click the command key, and while I'm doing that, the pen tool is turning to the move tool. And it's going relatively slow, making it easier for me to find 12.2. With the move tool, you can see it went by much quicker. There we go. Just to match 12. Close enough, 12.3. See what this sounds like.
They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around the circle.
Okay, so I'm going back to the move tool. Let's just move these around a little bit. Whoops, 12.2. There we go. Okay, backslash, fit the timeline to window, zoom out, hit home. See what we've done.
If you look at the Lindy Hop, you'll see a couple just moving. They're constantly moving. They're always on the go. They go around the circle, mostly clockwise, sometimes reverse. There's a lot of stops, a lot of spins, a lot of boogie-woogie steps.
Come on down.
You use your whole body. So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
White and brown, watch them lend the play.
Okay, there we go. One last thing. Okay, so now what we need, we're going to do my credits at the end. I'm going to go File, New, and we got a legacy title. Okay, I'll have to learn the new one, but I'll show you the legacy one. This is the size. I'm going to call it credits. Okay, I'll click OK. And there it is there. Here's my tools. I'm just going to click and type in edited by thing. Okay. Right. Drop it right there. Holding down the command key, moving it where I want it. There we go. Right in the center. Because actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little option up here. This is a new title based on the current title. The font size, all my text tools. But this little option here lets me turn it into a rolling. And I want it to start off screen and end off screen. And it'll be a roll. Yeah, there we go. And I click OK. And over here in my project pane is my title. You can see this scrolls up. Starts off screen, ends off screen. It's long. Let's just back up. Let's just take it. So it's going to speed up because I'm running out of time. There we go.
So you kick, you use your arms, you use your hips, you use everything in your body to accentuate what you hear in the music.
White and brown, watch them lend the play.
Edited by thing. There we go. That is this project. Okay. Dance shots. Workspace. Let's just reset my workspace. Editing is what I wanted. There we go. Okay. That is this lesson. Okay. I'll recreate this lesson in DaVinci Resolve and show you the differences and the similarities between these two.
You see a couple.
Okay. Thank you. One last thing before I go is that we really don't have anything yet until we export it. Okay. Export is another lesson altogether, but and we'll talk about it later. Okay. But what I don't have anything here, as I just have a Premiere project with all the files. Just as long as I don't lose it, I can assemble this project in a blink of an eye just by opening up the project, and it'll all put everything back together. Just as long as I haven't moved anything. Okay, as long as everything's in the same position. If I open up this project again, it'll put everything back. But if I move something, then we run into difficulties. But we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about exporting our movies. That's another lesson altogether. Okay, thank you.